One of the most common topics that comes up on the phone or during clarity calls is this idea that um, many clients have problems in their marriage that they believe are worthy of them getting divorced over. Oftentimes people come to me and say, well, my husband, is not nice or he behaves meanly. We feel very disconnected. We feel like we're two separate individuals living in the same house. He gets angry. He has an anger issue. Sometimes I withhold. There's a little bit of stonewalling going on. And many times the clients come to me feeling like they're on the verge of divorce. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten calls where perhaps the most important things I've told my clients is that whatever they're facing right now is not worth a divorce over. And that oftentimes brings them such relief. But the question is, how do we get to this situation? And how do we get to a place where we believe that marriage is something which isn't going to have problems? So, what I'd like to speak about today is what's normal to expect in a regular marriage and what defines a good marriage, right? What makes a marriage great and what is expected and normal within a marriage? An important idea that we have to understand, an important concept that's important for us to really absorb is that we have to come to terms with the idea that most of us don't see eye to eye, right? You take any two random people, you put them together in a room, and rarely are they going to agree on most things. If these people live with each other, they're going to hurt each other, right? We've all had friends in high school, we've all had friends in college, we've all had girlfriends, and of course we have our wives. And it's very normal that we are going to be insensitive or say things which are less than positive, or will be in a bad mood, or we will react to their bad mood in a negative way. Another thing which I think we need to understand, which is part of marriage, is that many of us will say things that at some future point we will regret, right? There's been many circumstances, hopefully not that many, but there have been times in my marriage where I've said things that I still to this day think about and wish I never said, right? And the same is true for my wife. We don't always show up our best selves. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. That this inability for us to fit like a glove, this is the nature of marriage. This isn't the exception to a marriage. This is what most people have, especially in the beginning of their married life, right? When two people with different backgrounds, different upbringing, different cultures, and even different language sometimes get together and choose to live as one, it's a miracle that we get along, right? It's a miracle that we don't, you know, run out the door. And it's an even bigger miracle that we end up loving each other. And like I like to say, it's the biggest miracle that sometimes we even like each other. I mean, it's a miracle that we love each other, and it's even a bigger miracle that sometimes we even like each other. We enjoy each other's company, right? So instead of looking at our dysfunction and our difficulties of marriage as an indicator that we shouldn't be married, right, which is oftentimes what happens, we need to look at these as opportunities in marriage, because this is the nature of bringing two people together as one. I always say it's like fitting a square peg in a round hole, right? We're two separate bodies that share the same soul. So our soul is trying to reunite, but we have our bodies that are standing in the way. And all of these disconnections, all of these points where we don't see eye to eye, all of these opportunities where we are emotionally not on the same page, this is our opportunity to kind of learn to fit with each other. And we do this through patience and listening and communicating and expressing compassion setting boundaries, right? These are all the tools of what makes a good marriage, right? So how do you know if your partner is quote unquote the one for you? How do you know um, that you're headed down the right path with somebody, even in spite of the fact that there's so many areas of disconnection? And oftentimes that brings a lot of anger and bitterness and resentment. So who's to say that you're actually, investing in something worthwhile? So one of the first things I do in my practice with clients is I'll ask them, especially let's say I ask the husband, you know, what made you fall in love with your wife? Right? Well, I ask a simple question, and maybe on the first phone call, maybe on the second phone call, what made you fall in love with your wife? Right? And it's almost never because she's so beautiful. Right? That's a given. The fact that he finds her to be extremely attractive and very sensual and connecting, physically, that is for sure a big part of it. But on a deeper level, it's almost always things such as that he feels understood, that he feels heard when he speaks, that he feels that she really loves him and cares for him. Oftentimes, it'll be something that he sees in her, like he'll say, because she's the kindest woman I've ever met, or he'll say, she has a heart of gold, right? When we feel this way towards another person, that we're attracted to them physically, right? And on top of that, we feel really deeply connected, like on an intuitive level, right? That when I share something, I feel like she gets what I'm trying to say. And when she gives me advice or when she responds, I can connect to what she's saying. It makes sense, right? When she talks about her issues, I find myself respecting the challenges that she's facing, right? I find myself respecting what it is that she's talking about. She's not sharing with me some what I considered extremely superficial or stupid issue that she's facing. I can see that the issues that she's grappling with in life are meaningful and purposeful, right? I remember when I first met my wife, one of her biggest issues that she always used to talk to me about was how does she help the world? How does she help refugees in the world? How does she knock down borders between people so that people can get along better? My wife never spoke to me about her nails. She never spoke to me about her other girlfriends. She said this and this other girlfriend said that, and da, da, da. These were never conversations that we had. We always had conversations where I had a deep respect for the issues that she was grappling with as a young woman, right? And the way she would describe it with the passion that she had for helping others and for bringing peace into the world. And I can tell you, my wife is exactly the same way to this very day. She walks around the house and she walks around our neighborhood and our community. And what comes off of her lips and when she's talking about is always these great issues facing humanity. you know Even when she talks about our kids and raising our children, it's always in these and there's always in this framework of what's best for our child and how they can have a better outlook on life. A deep person that I always felt very connected with. And this is something that is important for every man to look at his wife and the woman in his life and connect to that, because these are the ways that we really feel united, and we know that this person, in spite of our challenges with this person, that this person is the one for us, when we can feel connected to the issues that she's feeling, and as well as us feeling understood when we share our struggles. But like I'd like to say that given all given all this is merely just the starting point of what creates a good marriage. This is literally just the point where you can say, okay, I'm willing to go on the marriage journey with this person, right? Um, this begins the journey of taking on the external challenges of life as a team and our internal journey of two people becoming one, which is ultimately what ends up happening over time through the hills and valleys and the challenges of both external pressure that we're going to feel and internal pressure that we're going to feel, right? So external examples of external pressure would be getting a job, finding a place to live, having a house, establishing routines in your life and schedules, having children, right? And then there's the internal pressures and journeys that we have of just getting along, feeling like it's not enough time for us as a couple, or maybe our compatibility in the bedroom is a little off, or maybe there's issues with in-laws and family issues that come up only over time, right? Or how much attention we give to each other, prioritization of our different responsibilities, right? And feeling having enough compassion and patience for our partner as they're going through their life journey, right? When to come together as a couple and when to give each other space. These are all things that we all face moving forward in a marriage, and they're incredible opportunities for discord, arguments, and fighting, right? Which is the status quo for many of us in the beginnings of our relationship. But what I want to say is about this in particular is that the fact that you're having difficulties in these areas, that's not an indicator that you shouldn't be married. That's just an indicator that you are married. Okay. That's all that this is. This is just a sign that you're in a loving, connecting, intimate, close relationship with somebody who's also trying, right? This is part and parcel of what marriage is all about. Now, that's not to say that we can't overcome these challenges. That's not to say that we can't get better over time and we can't create space for a partner. Absolutely, that is the purpose of your marriage on a more spiritual level. On a more physical, mundane level, obviously we can take a look at statistics and numbers and say, well, it's best for the future of our species as human beings that that we have children, and then that children is raised in a two-parent man and woman household, right? But that's on the most superficial level, very important, but still a very superficial level. On a deeper level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, on a self-actualization level, right? Your marriage becomes that foundation and that space in which you become a full human being. And all of the problems and issues and challenges and fights and disappointments and learning to deal with those from within, like I said earlier, and also from without, especially for a man, learning how to support a home, learning how to, give out the money that he makes. Right? It's one of the biggest challenges that men face. They come home and they work hard for their money, and then they have to spend it on their wife and kids without making their wife and kids feel guilty, without raising I've met many houses. I'm sure people on this Twitter space have been in households where there's plenty of money. The father makes a lot of money, and yet the children feel like every time that they spend, they feel guilty or bad, right? And vice versa. Sometimes you see the exact opposite, where the parents aren't making much. So I think this is probably more relevant to today, where the parents aren't making a lot of money and the kids couldn't care less. They spend money like it's, going out of style. So learning how to traverse all the challenges that face us throughout our lives together as a couple, that's the journey of marriage, right? That's the indicator that you're in a good relationship. And through working on this, on your marriage, through practicing what I like to call the 5 foundations of marriage, which I talk about in my course, in my program, Recreating Intimacy program, which are kindness, gratitude, and goodwill. And then the second one is learning how to become a compassionate listener. And the third one is learning how to communicate without arousing defensiveness in your partner and criticism and blame. The fourth one is learning how to set boundaries. And the fifth one is learning how to have a successful, intimate life with your partner that goes the distance, right? Sometimes it's easy to have great sex in the first couple of years of marriage, especially when there are no kids. But how do you reach 60 years old having lived a fulfilling, connecting, safe, unifying sex life with your partner? That's a little bit more challenging, right? So when we practice these 5 foundations of marriage and we focus on the fact and we pay attention to the fact that that marriage itself is the journey, instead of looking at your marriage and saying, well, there's problems in it, I shouldn't be in the marriage, we look at it and we say, well, I'm experiencing difficulty, which just means that I am married, right? So that's how we know we're in a good marriage. If we're with a great partner who we feel connected with, who we feel understood by, who we feel loves us and who we feel comfortable loving, and then a partner with whom you can go the distance in life. And everybody's got their own schedule. Some people right out the gate, I get clients who are very young in their late 20s that say to me, hey, you know what? We want to set up a foundation for the next 40, 50 years together. And then I get some clients that don't really work on their marriage until they're in their late 30s or 40s. And some come to me sometimes on their second marriage and they say, hey, I screwed up the first time around. Let's make sure I don't mess it up the second time around. But all of us have this opportunity to create a great marriage with most of the time with the person who's sitting right next to them.